There is a major deal breaker on this vehicle. I can't believe it. Hey, this is Mike. Thank you so much for choosing this video. Today we're checking out a 2023 Honda Accord Hybrid in the Touring trim level. This vehicle sitting on 235/40 Michelin tires wrapped around 19-inch alloy wheels with a gloss gray finish. It also has four-wheel disc brakes with ventilated rotors in the front and solid rotors in the back. The name of this color is Canyon River Blue, and I think it's one of my favorite colors in this vehicle. Very nice looking. Sun's not really shining, but hopefully you can get an idea of what the color looks like here on camera. Instead of the radar adaptive cruise control sensor being down here, it's in the badge right here. So you can see the badge is kind of angled towards the road, so it's kind of hidden behind there. There is parking sensors here in the front. It also has the active grille shutters. So if you look inside the grille, it's actually closed off in there now because it only opens up when it needs cooling. So that way it kind of has the airflow go around the vehicle instead of through the engine compartment when it's not necessary. It's just a little bit better as far as aerodynamics. Now I have a full night video of this vehicle, so it shows the LED lights, which is basically the same here on these modern Hondas, where it has the three reflector LEDs with the high beams in the middle and the low beams on the outer portion of the housing. Now there is some gloss black in the grille, gloss black at the very bottom here, and then there's a matte black right in here, a little chrome cap on each end. The gloss black that we saw there in the bottom of the front extends here around and continues on the base of the door, the side of the vehicle here, and even here in the back. So it kind of extends all the way across. There is, and it matches the wheels. Now the wheels are kind of a gloss gray to my eyes, but you know, they could be kind of blend in with the gloss black. And then you have the pillars that are gloss black as well. And if you tint the glass, it kind of solidifies all that, which looks good. The handles and upper portion of the side mirrors are also body colored, so that kind of adds to the classy look to it. The inside of the passenger's door is basically all black. Now this is like an injection molded soft touch material, and this is like a vinyl type material that's soft touch here, and then of course you have a soft surface here for your arm to rest on. This handle is also enclosed here, so you can utilize that as a pocket. Now it is hard plastic in there, and then the bottom of the door is a hard plastic material with a little pocket there at the bottom, and then you have the gloss black right where your hand's going to touch and everything. I don't really have a problem too much with the gloss black as far as surfaces to touch, because it's really easy to just wipe off, and if there's fingerprints everywhere, I kind of want to know that they're there so I can clean them. So I'm not really into hiding dirt and fingerprints as much as other people, I guess. The passenger seat is a power seat, but basically it just goes forward and back and then tilt the back. There's no height adjustments or anything like that. They are leather appointed seats with the heated and vented ventilation, so it has little fans that blow air through them, and then it has the perforations there in the center, and then the smooth leather on the outer portion. And these seats for me are not very comfortable. I have an issue with the seats for sure. Okay, so there is the floorboard in front of the passenger seat. There's plenty of room here. Hard plastics here, and it does have a lock and glove compartment with a soft landing, smooth on the inside. And then you have a little portion right here where it's kind of like a vinyl type material with some contrast stitching, gloss black, and then it has this like grill all the way across where the vents are. They look kind of neat, I guess. I think it's pretty neat. And you'll notice that I don't know, just this pattern here kind of thickens up and then thins out over there. It's kind of interesting. And then you have the rubberized non-reflective dash here. So you can see the opening here in the front. Getting in and out of the vehicle is no problem. Lots of room here, and so just leg room, headroom, and all that stuff. The swing of the door is nice. The swing of the door here in the back is okay. It gets out of the way. A little bit less room as far as getting in and out, but still, it's not a problem at all, really. It's not like you're gonna get your head bumping your head too much unless you're really tall. So here's the inside of the back door. Similar styling. We have the soft touch here, 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 and then the hard touch at the bottom. Enclosed pocket. Does have a heated seat control as well as the power window. There's a threshold area and the back seats. Basically a bench seat, but it does have the armrest and cup holders that fold down. You can lift that up. The car seat attachments are underneath this flap, like so. Now, the good thing, there's pluses and minuses on the flap. One thing is it's not like a cover that comes off and then lose it. It's attached, but you will have to kind of like, you know, retuck it. Otherwise, it kind of looks shabby. There's a pocket on the back of the passenger seat, but not the driver's seat here. There's the legroom, large hump in the middle, and then 2 USB-C ports back here, and climate control vents. Taking a look at the back of the vehicle, it has a body-colored shark fin antenna right here. The third brake light is in the base of the glass right in here. And the contour of the trunk kind of looks similar to a deck lid spoiler. Looks pretty smooth back here as well. Similar to the front where it has this rounded off, smooth styling. And let me know what you think. I'm kind of surprised that there is some people that are not liking this vehicle because of the way it looks, but you know, it looks good to me. I think it's a really impressive design. So we still have the gloss black around the base. There is parking sensors and also the reflectors down here. LED taillights, and they extend almost all the way across. Looks really good at nighttime. You gotta check out my night video. Now the backup camera is way offset right here. Kind of looks like a tacked on aftermarket deal. I'm not sure why some manufacturers are still doing that, as if it's not supposed to be there. It's like it's this add-on thing. Okay, so we open up the trunk. There's a button here, or there's a the key fob, of course, has the button. And the good thing about this trunk, I guess there's pluses and minuses here, but when we open it up, we can do it from a distance, but when we do it, we open it up, it spring loads up. So that is really handy, to be able to like put your stuff in there. Because what happens, other vehicles, it just releases it and you get to go there and lift up on it, right? But let's say your hands are full. Well, this way you can release it and then you can just go ahead and put your stuff in there. But the drawback with this is that if it's raining, it just kind of springs up and kind of slings water inside. And so, you know, that's the only drawback, you know. Sometimes you want to release the trunk, say for somebody else want to access the trunk, a relative or something wants to go to the car and get something, you release it without it swinging up like that, you know. So I like it when it swings up, but it's also aware of the drawbacks as well. The trunk space is pretty impressive, especially for a hybrid vehicle, how much space you have back here. There's also bag holders here on the sides. You could put a net pocket if you wanted to. And the seats do fold down. It's a 60-40 split. We do have exposed metal and stuff, speakers, wires, and all that stuff. One single light in the middle, which is not too bad. Once again, you can check out my night video. Now this floor is kind of like a thin cardboard type material. And if you lift this up, you'll see that there is not a spare tire. But it does have the tire inflator kit and this huge chunk of styrofoam that you could, you know, a lot of wasted space with the styrofoam, but it looks like you can easily put a spare tire in here if you wanted to. Now you can fold the seats down, 60-40 split. Now there is, it's not a flat surface basically when you fold them down, but you do have the ability to add somewhat to your cargo space while still maintaining passenger space. You just have to be aware of all the exposed metal and wires here and speakers, so that way you don't damage whatever you're kind of wedging in the trunk here. You just have to keep that in mind that if you pile stuff up too high, it is going to be touching that harsh metal and stuff. The fuel door is here on the driver's side, and it's a locking fuel door. When the vehicle's locked, it's locked. When we unlock the vehicle, it also unlocks the fuel door. It is a capless design. Starting it up, as long as you have the key inside the vehicle, you just hold the brake and press this button. You don't have to hold the button, you just press the button to start it on. And since it's a hybrid, you may not hear the engine start. It just might turn on everything and just run off the battery, basically. Here's the floorboard in front of the driver's seat. The floor mat hooks in place in 2 places. There's the accelerator, brake pedal, footrest. Pretty good amount of room here in the front, especially leg room. So let's take a look under the hood. To raise the hood, there's a latch basically right here in the very center. Just reach in, it's on the bottom, move it to the right and lift up. So you can see there's the latch right there. The hood is kind of heavy and it does require a prop to hold it up. Here's the prop here and it swings up. There's actually 2 places. There's this first place, which has an arrow pointing at it. And then there's a second place down here, which if you want the hood much higher, you can put it right there. So you can see the lower position gives you a much higher position of the hood. Now you will need to be able to lift it up and all that stuff that high. And also, but it's just so much easier to look under the hood when the hood's not angled to where it hits your head. Okay, so the engine compartment, it has some insulation there, seals around the front and back, and a little bit there on the side, help directing airflow and control noise. There's a cover here, and this is a soft type cover on top of the engine. The firewall is insulated, but there's no heat shielding back there. Now this is a fairly normal 2.0 liter 4-cylinder engine, and so there's no turbocharger or anything like that, but it does have the hybrid system integrated with the CVT transmission. So it's a continuously variable transmission, then it has a hybrid motor, and it's able to propel the vehicle just in quote EV mode. So it's basically just using the electric motor. You can choose to do that at certain times, and then other times if you just have it an automatic function, it will just cycle the engine on or off depending on what you're doing. And it's mainly when the vehicle's sitting in this like this, you're not driving, usually the engine will turn off when the battery is full anyway, or at least have some charge. So the battery over here, this is the 12-volt battery, which is not the same as the battery that propels the vehicle. It does have the insulation here. This vehicle does have the blind spot detection system and a cross traffic alert, and the indicator is here on the side mirror. It's a little right here on the side mirror will illuminate when there's a vehicle in your blind spot. Now the driver's side door is just like the other side, except for it has a few more buttons. It has 2 presets for the power seat, power driver seat. We'll get into that in a few minutes. Power windows, the front 2 are 1-touch up and down. It is a laminated glass. Door locks, side mirrors are controlled here. You just pick a side and adjust with that little pad. So the power seats here on the driver's side, I've played with this seat for like a week and I can't really get it comfortable for me, but it does have the ability to tilt it, raise everything, basically like a dentist chair. So you have all this articulation, a 2-way lumbar adjustment as well, and I just can't get it comfortable for me. So this is one of those type of vehicles you do have to take an extended test drive, make sure that the seat is comfortable, because it would definitely be a deal breaker to have to bring the vehicle back and trade it back in if I accidentally bought this vehicle without testing the seat thoroughly. Okay, to the left of the steering wheel is basically nothing except for this latch for the tilt and telescoping steering column. Before I put the shade up, I just want to mention that it does have a heads-up display. It's very clear, easy to read. You can customize it, you can adjust it, and it's not distracting to my eyes. So I'm very impressed with the heads-up display and happy with it. I'm kind of picky with heads-up displays sometimes, so in this one it's fine for me. I'm sitting in the driver's seat checking it out. I'm 6 feet tall. I have the driver's seat all the way down and all the way back. And just to show you the potential legroom here, so pretty good amount of legroom. This is soft here on both sides. Sometimes my knee goes up against it, depending on what position I'm sitting in. So having this soft is nice. It does kind of stick out a little bit more than what I think it should, but it's not really a big issue. Now the seat is a big issue like I mentioned, so I'll mention that again. Just make sure it's right for you. Steering wheel, very comfortable actually. Leather wrap steering wheel, the stitching there on the inside. The thickness is great, nice thick steering wheel. Has a little tiny give to it. It's not super soft. It could be a little bit softer, but I hadn't really had an issue with it at all. It's been fine. Now it does have the paddle shifters here on the back. They're used for the regen braking. So when you're downshifting, if you're going downhill, you need to downshift. You can increase that regen braking to take advantage of that downward energy and recharge the battery somewhat. Now here on the front, it's the volume for the radio, change to the tracks, and then you have this scroll wheel here, right here next to the voice recognition button, and it's kind of rubberized, which is good. Here on the right, another scroll wheel, and we'll get to that in a minute because it corresponds with the screen. Now the cruise control is here on the right side. You just set it. This is how you turn it on, and then you can set, resume, and cancel here. Turn on the adaptive, the lane keep assist, which is actually pretty advanced. It has a really good display here on the screen and has a lot of information there, and it does hold the lane nicely. And then you can set the distance between you and the vehicle in front of you right there. So yeah, we're gonna get to these little scroll wheels in just a minute. Windshield wipers are right here. So it has the automatic function as well. And then here's the turn signal, but also has the headlight switch. So you can toggle on the lights. So at nighttime, you can turn off the lights with the vehicle running, but when you put it in drive and you start moving the vehicle, then it just disables that and the headlights turn back on. Parking lights and then the headlights there. Now the gauges is basically a screen, and it's a customizable screen. So right now it's showing showing a digital speedometer, so it doesn't have the normal dials like you would see, like a regular needle speedometer and a tachometer and all that stuff. This gauge right here is to show the power, so how much energy you're using, or going this way, regenerating to charge the battery. There is a battery meter here on the left side, and it's similar to the fuel gauge here. But the battery meter will go up and down more rapidly, of course, than the fuel gauge. And then it shows right here is the status of the vehicle. So like if I push there, I'll show you, there's a button over here that I can press that and it turns on EV mode. Press it again, it goes to auto. So that cycles, the automatic will automatically cycle the engine on and off. But if you force it into EV mode, it's going to try to drive the vehicle as much as it can without turning the engine on. So there's certain scenarios maybe you want to use that, but that's what that little auto thing is at the bottom. So it's a little bit different from a normal vehicle. Outside temperature is here. You do have a digital clock. It's showing the vehicle's ready to drive. So even if you don't hear the engine running, you can drive it. And you notice there's a little navigation map here. Of course, you can customize this. And there's also a little vehicle here. And when you're driving and you turn on the cruise control and the lane keep assist system, it actually shows right here the lanes in which you're driving on, vehicles around you, the status of your brake lights, your turn signal, things like that. Because if you have the vehicle in cruise control, it can apply the brakes. And so it kind of lets you know what's going on visually there on the screen. It kind of reminds me of the old Spy Hunter game from when I was a kid, but it's much more advanced looking. So the little scroll wheel to the right, see, I can scroll here and get different information. You notice it's showing the kind of like a regular analog speedometer there. So I can scroll through and I can get the status of the seat belts, maintenance, safety support systems, what's on, what's not, whatever content's on the radio, or no content will be nothing there on the screen, so you see the full needle. Continuing on, the brightness settings. This is where you have to adjust the brightness settings. There's not a dial or anything like that to do it. You have to go into the setting right here to do it. Heads-up display, we can go into the settings for that. And then you can turn off the traction control here. Default will be on. And then you can customize this display here, and you can go here and decide what you want to show. And then there's gauge design as well. So we had it on round, but we can choose bar. So if we just want a bar there on the sides, we can have that. We can have round minimal, like so. We could have bar minimal. and then we can have a full minimal. So as little as possible here, basically. All right, we'll go back to round, where we initially started. So it does give you the ability to customize the way it looks, as well as the content that's on the screen. Let's go back here. Scrolling down, this will give you your power flow. So as the engine's running, and depending on where the power is coming from, the battery or the engine, it'll have like a little arrows right there while you're driving. Range and fuel, speed and time, navigation. So you notice there's a lot of information there on that right side, including the navigation map. So leave it on the navigation map. Now on the left side, on this side, we use the little scroll wheel, and we can get different information here. So whatever you're ready, we can choose different audio sources here. Go to let's go to customize display. So we can display content, audio and clock are off, basically is the only options. Show and hide, and we can select the different sources that we want. Because let's say we don't use the Alexa, we can just uncheck that. We can USB, we don't really use that. We don't really use AM. We can uncheck these things, and when we go back, we don't have to scroll through all those different ones. We just scroll through the ones that we want to use. Kind of narrow it down. So that's kind of a general idea of how you can customize your screen, and you set it up the way you want it, and you pretty much leave it the way it is, and then later on if you want to reset it or whatever you can, but you don't have to go through all those menus all the time. It's just there in case you want to customize the menu or add some information. Now the touchscreen over here is quite a bit different than a lot of other previous generation Hondas. It is an impressive screen, and there's one drawback in my opinion, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right, so there's the home screen. It has these tiles similar to a cell phone, so you can kind of quickly go into things. It does have the Google navigation maps here, has the Google Assistance, Android Auto. We can keep an eye on the power flow. We have different audio sources as well. We have the vehicle settings, and then general settings, which is a separate deal. So sometimes you want to find something and you're into settings and you think, well, I can't find it. Well, there's profile settings, general settings, and vehicle settings. So just make sure you're in the right settings. All right, let's go back out of here and go over this way. There is a digital compass, the clock. I like this right here because sometimes you just want to focus on what time it is, because time is of the essence sometimes. We can change the different clock faces. I personally like a digital clock. And when you have the digital clock, it has the date too, which is I like. So let's say you're going to work or whatever, you want to focus on the time or whatever, then this is a really good way of, being right there in your face and easy to read, easy to see. Especially if you're on tight schedules. And then you can go in here, you can adjust the display brightness and the day and night mode, that kind of thing. And of course, Android Auto is handy. I don't really care for Android Auto myself, so I just mainly focus on the features of the vehicle, the actual features that the vehicle comes with, not paired to my phone. Now this little sidebar right here does have some additional information that you can have added, and I like to have the power flow sometimes so I can see the status of the battery, whether the engine's running or not. Usually you can hear the engine, but just sometimes it's nice to be able to actually visually see that what's going on there. But I also like the clock sometimes too. So being able to have, say, the navigation map here and the clock over there, depending on what you're doing, is pretty cool. Now you notice they tacked on this little volume knob because a few years ago people got mad because Hondas did away with the volume knob on certain models, so they tacked on a little volume knob, and there you go, that's good enough for you. All right, so this little grill right here is pretty neat. You notice, I don't know, it just has this, it's metal, and I don't know. It kind of looks classy. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it looks good. I think there's a lot of positive things about this vehicle. It definitely looks more modern. You know, some of the Japanese manufacturers will kind of use kind of dated designs and stuff, but I think this definitely looks like a modern vehicle. Now the 2018 model, you know, the previous generation Accord was awesome too. I definitely like that. So these look like completely different vehicles to me, but they kind of drive the same and feel the same, and you know, and all that stuff. But the looks, I think, it's nice to have a nice different style, I guess. Okay, so the climate control, it has the temperatures here, driver and passenger temperatures, dual zone climate control, and a little screen, and everything's kind of lit up and looking good where you want the air to blow, front and rear defrosters. I have had some issues with the windshield fogging up, and I had a trouble unfogging it, but you know, it's probably because it's just a humid night or whatever. But it does have the automatic function. It has a 3-stage cooled seat and a 3-stage heated seat for both the driver and the passenger here in the front. When you turn on the rear defroster, it also turns on the heated side mirrors as well. And there's the fan dial in the middle, of course. Now there is USB-C charge ports here. Now this one is for charging only. This is for connecting with the system. Wireless charge pad. It is kind of rubberized. Cup holders, little articulating arms, and it's flat here on this side and that side, so you can put your cell phone in there or whatever, and it's open here a little bit in the center for handles, or just utilizing that space for other things besides cups. Now here's the shifter, and when you it's a pretty traditional shifter. I like the push buttons myself, but some people prefer the regular shifter. Now when you put it in reverse, two things will happen. The parking sensors will pop up. Front and back parking sensors will be visually indicated here, but it also beep at you if you get close to something. It also shows up here as well, and then the backup camera here. And this screen is a high clarity screen and looks really good, but the camera is not taking advantage of that. It's kind of a low resolution camera. But the angle that the camera has, being able to see from that way to that way, see down the line, is the view that you have. Once you understand the view that you have, it is pretty good. They're taking advantage of the view as best they can, I think. Now having the camera in a center position a little bit higher would be better, but you know, that's just the way it is. Now it has different views here: wide, more linear, and then a top down. So depending on what you need to focus on. And the rear cross traffic alert, you can turn that off if you need to. And then of course has brightening settings as well. Brightness. Alright, continuing on, neutral and drive. And like I mentioned, there is no low range here, so you will have to use the paddle shifters if you're going down a hill or something like that, to slow the vehicle down. Use the, you know, like engine braking. Now it does have the drive mode here, and so when you cycle through the drive mode, so it has eco mode, normal mode, and then sport mode. Sport mode is more responsive and feels more fun to drive. Eco mode is kind of not fun to drive, and then normal is okay, but it's not like, you know, it's not as fun as the sport mode. The sport mode in this vehicle does feel more fun to drive. Some vehicles it's just like not a big deal, but this one, you know, it does kind of make a difference. And this is the button I was telling you about to force it into EV mode. So when we press that button, it's going to force it into EV mode. Now you notice the status of the battery here is low, so it's not going to last very long, but it will try to use that the vehicle in EV mode as much as possible, and you just press it again to cycle it back to automatic. Electronic parking brake is here. You lift it up to engage. It engages the rear wheels. Press and hold the brake here, and then push it down to release it. And then it has a brake hold feature. This is when you come to a complete stop. If this is turned on, it'll hold the brake for you until you hit the accelerator again. So if you're sitting at a stoplight or something for extended period of time, if you want to be lazy and not hold the brake, then you can just have that feature on. Okay, so this is really, really soft. Nice and comfortable and soft armrest here. Not quite big enough to share with the passenger, I don't think. Maybe, depends on how generous you are. And when you release it, it does latch down. You release it, kind of has a latch. when you let go, it doesn't flop back down. It's kind of a little bit spring-loaded. It wants to stay up, which is nice. And then here's the compartment, the junk drawer of the vehicle. It does have a 12-volt power supply in here, but it is hard plastic there in the bottom. I have my business cards in here. There's hard surfaces in here, so it's not rubberized or anything. Good idea maybe to cut out a piece of felt and put it in there, a white piece of felt, so you can see it a little bit better. Now the compartment, when you close it, there's not an obvious place to run wires in and out. It's not like there's an obvious place, but there is actually on this right side. This part right here is kind of angled up, unlike this side. So when you close it, there is a space right there. Usually there'll be like a little notch or something. There's no obvious place, but that's where it is. It's right there for the wire to go into that compartment. So you can plug it in a device, and then you can have the wire on this right side out, and then say you can plug it in and have it here or something. So that's something you won't hear on any other channel, I'm assuming. Okay, so there is a auto dim rear view mirror, and you can turn that feature on and off here. Now there is lights, and typically these reading lights shine in your lap so they don't blind you, but at nighttime these are just kind of blaring in your face. But they do give you good light for the most part. You can turn on all the interior lights, have them all off, or have them turn on with the door in that center position. There's also these little ambient lights that shine down as well. Roadside assistance button is there, and it's kind of covered up with this little cover. It's pretty cool. Kind of like reminds me of like emergency buttons in movies or something. It's like, don't press that button. And then there is the sunroof button. We'll get to that in a minute. Place to put your sunglasses or reading glasses or whatever. And it's pretty good size. You can put like big Hollywood glasses in there. The visors are a cloth, same color as the headliner, same material and everything. They're quite soft. It does have these lights, LED lights with the mirror. Now these do extend out. There's a clip here as well, but they extend out, but you notice they don't go all the way to the end. So the sun's always like shining right in my face right there. Okay, so the sunroof has a shade that covers 100% of the light. Open it up, and that's how big it is. So we can tilt it up, close it, and it's a single button to do all this stuff, and open it up. All right, that's as far back as it goes. And I like the way it covers 100% of the light with the cover. Looking at the visibility in the back, really no problem. It has those extra windows there in the rear pillars, and the pillars are not overly wide or anything. Now it depends on your passengers and all that stuff. You can see the seats are kind of high and the headrests get in the way a little bit. But of course this has the blind spot detection system, rear cross traffic alert, parking sensors front and back, camera system, all the technology to help you drive the vehicle safely. So now, since the battery is getting low, the engine starts up. So this being the 2.0 liter, this is the engine that you find in the HRV. And the HRV is relatively slow. A lot of people pointed that out. But this is the hybrid system in addition to the 2.0, which helps out, especially when you put it in sport mode. Sport mode does really make this vehicle more enjoyable to drive. Right now we're just in normal mode. Now with the CVT simulating gear shifts like that, I don't really care for it. I mean, if you're gonna have a CVT, you just might as well just use the CVT in a way that takes advantage of the efficiency of a continuously variable transmission instead of having all the simulated shifting going on. It's just, forget about it. Okay, so the lane keep assist system is able to follow the lines fairly well, and it can detect the lines, even one line it can follow. And when you set the cruise control, it does a good job of keeping you at a safe distance between you and the vehicle in front of you, and it'll let you know if there's a vehicle in front of you, both on the screen and on the heads-up display when you have that turned on. The lines will turn green as well. When it sees the lines and it's able to follow the lines accurately, the lines turn green, and it can tell which way the road is bending and all that stuff. It has these neat little screen there that kind of shows you what the vehicle sees. Now it relies on the camera system for that, so you want to keep the windshield clean. But it also has the radar too for the adaptive system. So yeah, there's some wind noise, a little bit of engine noise when the engine's running anyway, and a little bit of road noise. Now this is a very smooth road right here, relatively smooth, so it's not that old, but you can still hear a little bit of road noise. But mostly right now wind noise, because there's a little bit of wind today, just a little bit. You notice that the vehicles driving past you, you don't really hear them. So it's pretty decent. With the laminated glass here on the sides, it can keep most of the exterior noises out. Okay, so I have it in sport mode, and we're gonna do a little bit of acceleration here just to see what it's like. So in this vehicle, it is a significant improvement. Once again, the little bit of a stepped acceleration is not really not my cup of tea. But it does have a lot of engine noise, and it sounds kind of cool. You know, some people like the engine revving sound, but it does accelerate and feel more responsive in general when you have it in sport mode. So right now, since there's a vehicle in front of me, it actually shows the vehicle down here as well as there on the heads-up display. And I have 2 bars as far as the distance between me and the vehicle in front of me. So right there at this speed, it's okay, you know, as long as you're paying attention. But you can increase your distance. So you increase your distance, and it will, you know, have a further following distance, which is a little bit better, you know, especially depending on your driving conditions, I guess. But it will apply the brakes. So if you have a vehicle in front of you, slap on the brakes, you know, the vehicle will apply the brakes for sure. Now you want to keep that in mind when there is a vehicle behind you, especially a big truck or something like that, that, you know, if you allow the vehicle to just kind of willy-nilly apply the brakes whenever it wants to, you know, you got to take that in consideration, that the vehicle doesn't care if there's like a huge Mack truck right on your tail, right behind you. So you have to, you know, I personally, in situations like that, I just turn that system off, because I don't want it, because what happens is cars will turn off and they'll be in a turning lane and they'll be out of my way, but the system will see that car as if it's in front of me, and it'll literally just slap on the brakes for absolutely no reason. And if there's a vehicle in front of you, they're not going to anticipate you to do that. So, you know, it just causes a big problem, you know, especially a big truck or something. So, you know, with these safety systems, you have to, you know, you don't turn off your brain and let the system do it for you. You know, it doesn't matter how advanced the safety system is, it's going to not be as thoughtful as a human being, basically. So following the lanes, you can see it kind of stays a little bit, it stays in the middle. You notice it didn't go in that turning lane. Of course, you're supposed to have your hands on the wheel, but I'm just kind of demonstrating how well it stays within the lane. But it seems like sometimes it stays a little bit close to the inner portion of the road for me, but it doesn't really fight me. So if I'm driving and I want to drive a little bit different in the lane, it's not like constantly fighting me and wanting me to go in a certain spot. So that's good. Some vehicles, when you turn on the lane keep assist, is like constantly fighting against you. So yeah, this one doesn't really do that. Sounds pretty good. Has a little rev sound to it. And it feels punchier, it feels a little bit more responsive. Alright, so at 66 you can hear a little bit of road noise, a little tiny bit of wind noise, but it feels solid and planted. It doesn't feel unstable. And the lane keep assist systems works pretty good. So you can see on this little screen right here, it can see that vehicle, it can see that vehicle, and it's actually showing where they are relative to my vehicle. But you can hear that road noise. It's definitely not, you know, the quietest vehicle. And Honda, Toyota, Lexus, a lot of the Japanese vehicles are just loud in general, louder in general than other vehicles.